Hello, welcome to my Wartales Swordsman class guide. I'm a host, Methfu. So if this guide managed to help you out even a tiny little bit, please smash that like button. It will be greatly appreciated. So in this guide, we are going to be going over the best skills, equipment, and class to use as the swordsman. Okay, so super quick breakdown of the swordsman. He is the best tank in the game. None of the other classes even come close to his mitigation, his damage reduction, and everything else he provides as a main tank. Utility wise, he brings quite a lot to the party as well. He brings buffs for allies, disarms for enemies, mobility, slows, and weakening effects are just some of the things that he can do. The swordsman has quite a lot of sustained damage as well, depending how you build him. You can also build him to have more burst damage as well, but it's really completely up to you. So at level 2, we have the classes, starting with Protector. Encouragement, 1 Valor point. The unit and all allies in the area gain protection for 2 rounds, 6 meter radius. Protection. Damage taken reduced by 30%. Right, so I'm not the biggest fan of the skill. Damage taken reduced by 30%. In the current meta, inverted commas, you don't want to be hit. You want to burst them down. You want to kill them before they kill you. So being hit is a big no-go. The only redeeming factor of the skill is that it has a really large radius, and it is the equivalent to the Berserker's battle cry pretty much. So unless the game changes in a couple of patches or when it comes out early access to make damage reduction skills a bit more valid, at the moment, the skill is a bit redundant. The Protector also comes with heavy armor. I've spoken about this before in previous guides. Medium armor is the best armor. Then I would say light, and then I would say heavy. Heavy has a bit too many penalties. The -2 movement every time you put one of these on is quite a big deal. Having movement is amazing in combat. The only other saving grace that this armor has is there is an ability in the skill tree of the swordsman that kind of negates the penalties of the heavy armor. So it's actually okay for him to use it in a way. Next up is the fighter. They have destabilizing strike, 1 valor point, deals 44 to 54 damage to the target and applies destabilization for 2 rounds. Destabilization, guard reduced to 0. Okay, so this is one of my favorite skills for the swordsman. There's barely anyone that can literally take away guard at the beginning of the game, especially at level 2. Taking guard down to 0 at level 2 is really, really good. It allows you to kill stuff quicker. Guard reduces damage taken pretty much. So once guard is gone, you can burst down anything no matter what. So even if they had 100 or 200% guard, you slam dunk them with this, bam, guard's gone, and they're literally squishy like a piñata. Fighter also comes with heavy armor. As I said before, the swordsman actually has an ability that negates the penalties of heavy armor, so it's actually not too bad to have on him. Last but not least, we get the Swordmaster, Laceration. 2 valor points, deals 41 damage to all the units in the area 2 times. Usable after 2 attacks, performs attacks 0 of 2. So I don't want to lie to you guys, this is literally just a worse version of the Cutting Maelstrom from the Warrior class. It has too much of a big wind-up time. By the time you've done 2 attacks, that's the 3rd turn. Nearly everything's dead already. What's the point? Like, why would you take this? There is ways of manipulating the turn order by using ripostes and counterattacks. But at the same time, like, why would you take it? It's just really not that great. I don't really like it. It's just got too much of a slow wind-up penalty with not enough benefits for what it does. The Swordmaster also receives medium armor. As I said in previous guides, medium armor is the best armor class that you can get in the game. So medium armor is always great to have on anyone pretty much. We will be putting a point into fighter for the stabilizing strike. That is a crazy ability compared to the other 2. Over to level 3 skills. Defensive stance. The unit gains deflection. If they are engaged in combat, you gain 1 valor point. Deflection. Damage taken of the next attack reduced by 70%. Right, so I kind of hate this skill. As explained in my warrior class guide as well, once you use this ability, you can no longer attack anymore. So you have to either choose between doing damage or using a defensive ability and being hit by stuff. I prefer to kill stuff before it hits me because that's literally how it goes. It's better to kill something than be killed yourself. So in other words, this ability is just really crap. And also on top of that, it's a valor point generation ability. Some of the times they're not going to hit you. Like, they're going to be archers or spearmen and use ranged attacks on you. You're not going to get a valor point. So unless they engage in combat, you're not getting that at all. So yeah, I really don't like the skill at all. It's just really rubbish. Valorous Chain. Every time an attack hits several enemies, you gain +1 valor point. Okay, so when I'm in battle, I like things to go my way the whole time. I don't like to rely on the layout of the enemies and be like, oh, are they slightly grouped up together? I can get my valor point back. Oh no, they're not grouped up together at all. They're too spread out. I'm not getting a valor point for my next attack. That really sucks. It means like I can't rely on this. It's not reliable. Like, I want something that's reliable, like Old Faithful, you know, that literally just does what it says it's going to do. So in other words, if the enemies aren't grouped up, you're not getting your valor points. And I like to have valor points during combat so I can use my skills. And if I'm not using my skills, then I'm probably taking damage. And if I'm taking damage, that means the enemies aren't dying. So in other words, it has like a massive dominoes effect just because it's not very good on this class. Our last skill in the level 5 category is Valorous Duel. Every time this unit engages in combat, you gain 1 valor point. So I'm going to sound like a broken record because I said this before in the previous guide. But I'll say it again. I'll probably say it again a couple more times just for the hell of it. So this is a really good valor point generation skill, mainly because you don't have to rely on the enemy's layout at all. You don't have to be like, oh, they're too far apart, I'm not getting my valor points. It literally just does what it says on the tin. You have to like watch out for the sun in your eyes or make sure the wind direction's going the right way. It literally just does it. Love it. So we have moved up in the world. We're now on the level 5 abilities or skills. So we've got Bulwark here. Each time this unit engages, they gain deflection. Deflection, damage taken of the next attack reduced by 70%. Right, so this skill isn't too bad. I know I've said it before that it's better to kill them than take damage yourself. If you really want someone to take damage, this is the guy to do it. Anyway, he is like a main tank, the best tank I would say in the game, literally out of all the other classes. So if you want someone to take damage and have it reduced, yes, this is okay. It's not too bad. I mean, it's not as bad as this. That defensive stance, that's just useless. Losing your attack is a big no-no. You don't want to do that for 70% damage reduction. And also have it be your valor point generation skill. That's just a big no-no. Whereas obviously the Bulwark, that's okay because it's passive. You need to engage enemies anywhere at some point in your life. So if you just have it on, it's fire and forget. It's kind of there. I mean, it's not amazing. It's not bad. It's just borderline average. Next up is counterattack. Each time this unit engages, they gain riposte. Riposte. The next time this unit is attacked by the engaged opponent, they parry with an attack of opportunity, cancelled if the unit moves. Ignore the inspiration part. That's another bug. That's actually the upgrade once again. Just completely ignore that. Pretend you never saw it. It never happened. So counterattack, as I said before, it's kind of a bad thing to be hit. But if you're going to be hit, you're on the right class to do it with. So instead of having 2 attacks a turn, you get this 3rd attack if you don't kill your target. Normally, when I'm on the swordsman, I will send him at the biggest, chunkiest bastard on the enemy team. Last level 5 skill is Daring. As long as a bonus is active on this unit, the attacks apply weakening for 1 round. Weakening, damage reduced by 50%. Right, so Daring is kind of like Marmite. It's a love and hate relationship. So in the early game, when you have no bonuses or buffs, you will never be able to activate this. Late game, you will be able to keep this on pretty much permanently and cause the weakening effect. The only problem is that you kind of do it in AoE, so you either do it single target AoE depending which weapons you're using and skills, but at the same time, you're not really going to want to spread all that weakening out to everyone anyway, because you want to kind of either CC stuff down or kill what you're not CCing. So in other words, if something's not crowd controlled, you're killing it. If something's crowd controlled, you're not killing it. So it kind of encourages a bit more anarchy, but yes, it's a fairly strong skill. Especially late game, yeah. Level 8 skills, Last Stand. As long as this unit has no armor, they have Brutality. Brutality, damage increased by 30%. Okay, so in other words, you kind of have to throw your swordsman into the thick of the fray to make sure they take down his armor to activate a 30% damage buff, which you can pretty much receive off a lot of other classes for free without doing any of this kind of silly malarkey. So in other words, this ability is really bad, and losing all your armor is even worse because once your armor is gone, your guard is gone as well. So in other words, you have no damage reduction. You will die really, really quick. Next up, we have hand-to-hand combat. 1 valor point applies disarm to the target for 1 round. Disarm can no longer use skills requiring their weapon. So I kind of like this ability. I see it as a little spearball. Spearball is a lot better because it does damage. But this is a very similar thing as well, except without doing damage, it just disarms them, stops them from having a turn. So you're pretty much doing the same thing in effect. This stops them from having a turn. Spearball stops them from having a turn. Spearball does damage. This one doesn't. It's not as good as Spearball, nowhere near or never be as good as Spearball, but it's still, you know, a bit of utility and fairly strong. Our last level 8 skill is Hardcore Training. This unit is immune to bleeding, poison, or burning. Ignore the rage thing. That is literally another upgrade, another bug, visual bug. Just ignore that. Pretend that never happened as well. When I first saw Hardcore Training, I was just like, oh, I don't think that's going to be needed. I can probably avoid bleeding, poison, and burning quite a bit. But now, later on, especially in the new map, poison is everywhere. Literally, poison is everywhere. It stacks up. It's really annoying. And bleeding is fairly predominant as well. And burning can be annoying since I have a lot of weapons that have that on. So, in other words, this is really, really strong, especially for tank. And it probably is pretty strong on a off tank as well, or melee DPS. So yeah, I would take this. It's really good. Okay, so on to upgrades. Starting with Stabilizing Strike. Deals 44 to 54 damage to the target and applies destabilization for 2 rounds. Always lands a critical hit against enemies without guards. So that is the part that's upgraded. Always lands a critical hit against enemies without guard. This really shocked me actually. It's really surprising because I built my fighter as a tank, and every time I send it on like an archer or anyone else, he just drops them by himself. He literally will just drop them to the ground. I'm just like, what on earth is going on? The damage this does is actually quite surprising. He sometimes ends up soloing like the whole team by himself just because of this skill. It's really, really strong when it's upgraded. So counter attack, every time this unit engages in combat, they gain riposte. Every time they disengage, they gain inspiration for 1 round. Inspiration movement doubled. So that's the upgrade there, the inspiration part. This is actually really strong as well. This is insane. Like the movement it gives is absolutely incredible. I can literally zip around the map like no one's business. I can almost teleport. That's how much movement it gets. And also on top of that, it doesn't have to be activated on the round you kind of engage the enemy on. It can be any other round. Say for example, I put him on an enemy and I've been with him for like 2 rounds, babysitting him. As soon as that guy's killed, as soon as I disengage, I get this inspiration bonus. So I can jump on an archer or someone else really, really quickly. It literally allows the tank to kind of move around the battlefield really fast and get everywhere that he needs to be able to tank to his fullest. So hardcore training upgrade. This unit is immune to bleeding, poison or burning. When they should be affected by these effects, they gain 2 rage instead. Once per effect per round. Rage, damage increased by 5%, stackable. So this actually is really powerful. It's probably one of the best upgrades that the fighter can receive, or so I said the swordsman, just because that rage can get really out of hand. Because, for example, I have fire on my weapon, and then if I go into my own fire that I've created my weapon, that's 2 rage. Then if they poison me, that's another 4 rage. And if they bleed me, that's another 6 rage. So you see where I'm going with this. That's a lot of damage increase. So eventually I will start just one-shotting enemies because they give me so much rage from all the effects and debuffs. And yeah, it just gets really crazy, really strong. It's probably his best ability and probably his best upgrade. Or probably his best ability once it's upgraded, should I say. Okay, so Laceration upgrade. Deals 41 damage to all units in the area 2 times. Usable after 1 attack. Perform attack 0 of 1. So in other words, this has made it a lot more usable. You can literally do 1 attack and use it straight away. The only problem is that it still costs 2 valor points. That is a massive, massive drain on your resources. So you're not going to be able to use this much during combat. Probably like once per combat. Otherwise, no one else is going to be able to do anything else pretty much. Because you're going to take all the valor points and have to regain them over time. It's just going to take ages. And yeah, I just don't think... If it only costs 1 valor point, I feel like, yes, it would be amazing, amazing skill. But those 2 valor points... really, really drains it completely. Over to Daring. As long as a bonus is active on this unit, the attacks apply weakening. Notice how it doesn't say weakening for 1 round now. That's like a permanent debuff. So as soon as you have a bonus applied on you and you hit anyone with an AoE attack or any other attack, you permanently put weakening on them. That's pretty strong actually. That lasts for the whole battle. But as I said before, normally if something's not being crowd controlled, you're killing it. So yes, I guess if there's loads of enemies and you can't kill them all, and yeah, you have to kind of weaken some of them and stop their damage. Yeah, definitely take this. It's good. It's really strong, but otherwise you want to crowd control and then kill whatever you're not crowd controlling. Last Stand. As long as this unit has 50% armor or less, they have Brutality. Brutality damage increased by 30%. So instead of having no armor, it's now 50% armor. It still doesn't make the skill any better than it was because, as I said before, there's a lot of classes that can give this buff out for free without having to lose your armor first. But this one is a lot more manageable, I guess, in combat. You will be able to do this a lot more, especially if you're using it as a tank. You will drop probably below 50% armor or around 50% armor. But still, it's just not that great anyway. There's people that can do this buff at the beginning of the battle with a big shout or something, or, you know, just give it to everyone. So there's no point to really taking this because most of the time you're going to have someone else that can do this anyway. Encouragement upgrade. The unit and all allies in the area gain protection for 3 rounds, 10-meter radius. So it's gone up by 1 round and it's gone up by 4 meters. This literally is the defensive equivalent to the warrior's battle cry. The only thing about the upgrade is it didn't really get rid of any of the other weaknesses I previously discussed. It lasts for another round, fair enough. That's pretty good. The radius is amazing. 10 meters is amazing radius. That hits like the whole map pretty much. That's great radius. The only problem is its damage taken reduced by 30%. You don't want to be taking damage. You want to either say crowd control, kill one, have a tank on one of them as well, or 2 of them. But otherwise you don't really want to be taking it. So in other words, me giving this 30% damage reduction to my whole team doesn't really help that much because my whole team shouldn't be taking damage. I should be able to make sure I choose who's taking damage, not the enemy. Over to hand-to-hand combat upgrade. Applies disarm to the target for 1 round. If the unit is already disarmed, also applies vulnerability. Vulnerability, the next attack suffered will be a critical hit. So the thing about this is I've only ever seen 1 skill that has disarm at this moment in time. Maybe after the early access ends, or maybe in a couple of patches when they release like the level 12 skills. At this moment in time, there's only 1 person that does disarms, and that is what I'm playing right now, which is the swordsman. So if I had another swordsman, even then this ability upgrade would be really crap, because vulnerability only lasts for like 1 attack anyway. So you're literally using 2 disarms, and if the enemy's already disarmed already, why would you want to use another disarm for a critical hit? It just doesn't make any sense. There's way too much effort for so little payoff. It's just, no, this is rubbish, absolute rubbish. And our last upgrade is Bulwark. Every time this unit engages in combat, they gain deflection. Every time they disengage, they gain Fury. Fury, damage on your next attack increased by 50%. Right, so this is actually a pretty strong upgrade. Getting 50% damage on your next attack as this class is really strong. On top of that, you can disengage fairly freely as a tank because you kind of like will have your allies kind of attacking something for you and they'll kill it for you, and then you get this buff anyway. It's kind of like your reward at the end of the day for tanking that enemy. Then you can move on to the next person and slam dunk them with this 50% extra damage buff. But it's kind of between this and the other ability as well, which I really like. I think it's counterattack, gives the inspiration of double movements. So you kind of got to decide between the 2. I would still take the double movement just because I like to have my tank that's using heavy armor to be able to move around the battlefield and be able to like kind of get to places where I need them to be straight away, especially on the archers, because the archers always sit like miles away in Tokyo and you really need that extra movement to be able to sit on them freely, because a lot of other classes can't really do that. They can't just go and sit on someone. They can't be like, you can't grab the berserker and send them at the archer because everyone else will kill the berserker, whereas you send this guy in, he'll tank everything else and tank the archer as well and still survive while your team cleans up everything else. Okay, so moving on to the best skills to take at the start of the game or later on learning them with books. So first up we have Taunt. Forces the target to engage and inflicts weakening to them for 1 round. Costs 1 valor point. Weakening, damage reduced by 50%. So it's really good to have in a tank. Reducing damage is always great, especially if you're the only one tanking something. You kind of have to sit on them. On top of that, every time you engage, you get a valor point. So say for example, you engage a target and kill them, you can literally go and attack another target straight away with this taunt and get another valor point from that as well. So you can literally make about 2 valor points a turn. And our last choice is, yes, you guessed it, it has been pretty much in every single one of my guides so far. It is Wrath, the universal melee skill. It's going to be in every single melee I have. Wrath, 1 valor point, deals 39 damage to the target if they have less than 50% health left. Fatal blow, this unit gains Fury. Fury, damage on the next attack increased by 50%. So Wrath is amazing to have in every single melee because sometimes you will have an enemy with a sliver of health, like the tiniest little bit, probably like 5 or 7 HP, and you'll be like, God damn it, they're going to survive. This is really annoying. But with Wrath, it fixes all your issues straight away. You just wrath them down, bam, they're gone. They don't attack you, don't kill you, they don't put pressure on you. They are out of there. Wrath is universally amazing to have on every single melee class in the game. Right, so this is a fight to show how to play the fighter, show how powerful he can be, how strong he is with the right build, and with a team that supports him as well. So we're going to start off over here with the Berserker. We've got like an elite team kind of set up, ready to pounce on their leader and take him down straight away. And we've got the Pipe Man ready to cover the Berserker's retreat. So as you see, we've got them all sandwiched in with our forces. So let's go. Let's move him forward. Give him some light stabbings or slashings, and he's dead. He's out there. straight away. I can even move here if I want to and go for another hit. There we go. And then move him back. So we're going to bring up the pikeman. And then we can even knock this guy back or let him come to us. I think we might actually just let him come to us so we can kill him off. Okay, so he's engaged on our fighter now. Fighter's built a bit of rage because he tried to poison us. He tried to poison us. So every time he hits me and it has a status effect, say for example poison, bleeding or burning, I get rage out of it. So it's pretty damn strong. So let's grab you. We'll wait to see if they come close actually. They might come to me in a second. So I'll wait a sec. Move you a bit closer there. How close do I need to be? About there. For the valor points. And then it will move you there. Keep going for some chops in this. Might as well. Place that there. Ready to handle this. Yeah, he's coming straight towards me. Bam! I don't think so. I don't think so. Okay, so what can we do now? I think we should kill this with a raft. Actually, I'll raft it. It's low. So we raft it. Now we've got a reset as well in our movement because of inspiration from the passive we got. Where is it? Here it is. It's a counter attack. So every time I disengage, I get inspiration. My movement gets doubled. So you can see I can literally zoom across the whole map now, which is pretty insane for a fighter. So I'm going to zoom over here to stop this guy from attacking me. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Give him one of these. Get a valor point back from that as well. And I get to just take him out. Bam. See you later. And then I'm actually going to zoom again over to here and taunt this poacher so he can't do anything as well. Get another valor point back. There we go. And if the poacher tries to stab me, I get a riposte on him in a second. Okay, we'll smash it up. Time to smash. Yeah, I guess I'll try and get smashed here. I don't think I can though. I think, yeah, he's slightly in the way, the harpoon guy. So what I'll do is I'll tie him up with this instead. I won't use the poison impact. And then you. Let's move you over this way. Take a shot on that. Ooh, crit. Nice, double shot. I can put barrage down as well if I want to. Don't think I need to though. Pretty sure everything's going to die pretty soon. I'll do it anyway because I can. Not because I have to. Right. Then I can run this to the archer. A bit far away as well. I'll move you up. Can't reach. Okay. So whose turn is it still? The archer as well. So we run this to you here. We can actually get reset here by making this guy attack. Okay, it's pretty low now. And then I'll actually run to behind here to start killing this guy instead. There we go. Almost dead already. Ooh, another one bites the dust. Okay. Riposte. Almost killed him already. So let's leave with the fighter again. Let's go for another raft. And then we'll run it over to... As you see, the movement's insane again. I can clear the whole map. Absolutely crazy. Do another one of these on here. Actually, I'll do that first. So not going too much into my valor points. And I've killed that. He just does so much damage. Once he's got like that crit on his attack, always lands a critical hit against enemies without guard. It does so much damage as well. It's just crazy. He hits really hard, and I can run again across the whole map once again if I want to. I'll just leave him there. Let's see. Who should we grab for some fun? I think you can smash that off. There we go. Ooh, a new nickname. That's cool. And then let's run you. I can't actually see what I'm doing because it's in the way. Let's just run you there. I'm not going to attack or anything. I'm just going to do it for the surround bonus. And you can run up as well for surround bonus. Poisons. And then let's grab yourself. Surrounded. So we have you surrounded. And then through this. I'll back away as well. Let someone else go in there and do some work for once. Leave you in. Okay, now he's burning. Now he's got everything on him. Look at him. He's burning, he's bleeding, he's poisoned, he's surrounded. He's someone to finish him now. I think he's gonna survive. Don't survive. That's not cool. If I move there, I get the buff from the spearman. Come on. Never! No, okay. Yeah, he survives. And he's dead to all the poison and stuff. Okay, so equipment time. I'm using Uthbert of the Eye. Has strength 28, has a poisonous oil attached to it. Poisonous oil. Every time a skill deals damage, has a 30% chance to apply 1 poison. Poison loses 5% of their maximum health at the end of their turn. So the reason I got poisonous oil on this is normally because I'm using my sword master, or should I say my fighter, as a tank. So he's normally sitting on someone, he'll apply poison to them, and eventually it'll kind of tick away at them while they hit him, and and he hits back and stuff until I can finish off whatever he's got engaged with him. So in other words, the poison just keeps ticking and destroys their health bar. Once their armor's gone, they just die almost instantly, or they die from the poison in general. So over to the main skill, we have Hallowed Strike. Deals 39 damage to all units in the area. If this attack hits several units, creates a fire under each of them. Fire applies burning to any unit that crosses the area or ends their turn within it. Burning, target loses 20% of their max health and spreads the effect to the nearby units at the end of their turn. Cancelled if the unit moves. Right, so this attack on this weapon has a pretty good radius, about 2-meter range. Can hit up to 2 to 3 targets if you're lucky. And also applies fire or burning, shall I say, underneath them, which means they'll be losing even more HP if I'm tanking them. Say, for example, I've got something engaged and my teammates can't get to it. This will burn them away, burn their HP away along with the poison as well. On top of that, that is not all it does. With hardcore training, because it leaves a burn on them, and if they're burning, it spreads to the nearby person, whoever's nearest, which will most likely be my fighter because they'll be engaged with them. That means I'll be gaining rage stacks on top of that as well. So when I'm getting those rage stacks, it's increasing my damage. So it's this really, really strong combo, those two combined. So in other words, I'm burning them alive, I'm poisoning them, and I've also got the hardcore training, which allows me to get rage every time they pass the fire to me, the fire debuff. Pretty crazy combo. My belt accessory is Poison Vial. After using a skill, this unit has a 30% chance to apply 1 poison to the target's hit. So every time I use a skill, say for example I use Taunt, I use Wrath, I use Destabilizing Strike, anything like that, or even the main attack, I will apply a poison to the target. So it just gives me more opportunities to apply poison. Because my attack only kind of hits on a little cone, 2 to 3 people, I figure this is fairly good because I have a fair amount of skills to use and I can still keep stacking those poisons up, keep kind of tanking something, and yeah, it just does pretty good damage over time, especially if I'm not dying at all. The heavy armor I'm using is called Paladin's Battle Plate. It has movement -2, critical hit 6%, guard 30%, armor 235. As I said before, heavy armor is not the best because of the minus movement thing, but because I'm using the ability counter attack where it gives me inspiration, allowing me to double my movement speed. It means this has no effect on me at all, only at the beginning of the battle. Very beginning of the battle this affects me, but I make sure I position my fighter in a nice way that I can get to a high priority target as soon as possible and engage it. After that, literally I can travel everywhere. It's like I'm on a motorbike. I can literally travel across the whole map whenever I want. Pretty crazy. And we have the shield, which is the bandit shield. So this gives 19% guard, 52 armor, damage taken of shooting attacks reduced by 90%. So this allows me to put my fighter literally wherever I want. So I normally try and position it where the enemy archer will actually take a shot at him. If that hits him, that's doing nothing. They're only doing 10% of their damage, which is like literally nothing. So I can put this guy wherever I want. He literally is like a paperweight or immovable stone. He just stands there, takes damage if I need him to. Sometimes, most of the time I try to avoid taking damage on him, but if I can't avoid taking damage, then I always put him somewhere and just let everyone kind of unleash on him. But he's very tanky, very hard to take down. Range damage doesn't do much. Melee damage doesn't do much, and on top of that, he does fairly good damage himself and puts out lots and lots of damage over time effects. Really strong combo. Oh, and I almost forgot, the best layer for the fighter is Reinforced Layer of the Serpent. Strength 2, critical hit 2%. There is really not that many great layers in the game. This gives him more damage on his attacks because of the strength. Gives a bit more crit as well on his normal attacks. Obviously, his stabilizing strike is pretty much guaranteed to crit on anything with no guard. But on the other attacks, or when they do actually have a guard, this helps out a little bit more because his critical hit is around 27%. With this be an extra 2% on top of that, which will be 29%, allowing him to crit a lot more on the targets that aren't a guaranteed critical hit. So I don't know. I don't think there's any other layers that are actually better than this at this moment in time. But maybe in a couple of patches or when the game gets released once again, there may be a lot more options that are better. But at this moment in time, literally, there's nothing really worth putting on a tank other than this. And unfortunately, I have not got a slot in my armor once again. I'm waiting for an armor with a slot in it that is as good as the one I've already got. Right, so the best professions to take as a fighter tank. Blacksmithing gives you a massive chunk of strength. At max level, gives you +3, which affects all your damage abilities because strength is your main stat. Then we've got mining, gives you constitution 2. It can also give you strength as well later on, which is obviously nice to have for a tank, and also strength, which is your main stat once again. And then cooking is really nice as well because it gives you loads of constitution, makes you more tanky, allows you to fulfill your role even better. Then we've got Tinkerer. Tinkerer is actually pretty good for a damage dealer swordsman. The reason why I have Tinkerer is because I actually started off as a two-handed swordsman damage dealer. Later on, I decided this guy was the best tank. He had the best abilities for it, and he was the strongest tank in the group. So I decided to convert him over. The reason why I haven't switched off Tinkerer yet is mainly because the only other option that I don't have in my group is Angler. At this moment in time, Angler is a bit rubbish. It doesn't really bring much to the table. It literally allows you to fish and cook them. Whereas I can just buy ingredients off the merchants and kind of cook them up. I don't really lose much from not having this at all. On top of that, willpower is one of the worst stats in the game, or is the worst stat in the game, I would say. And same with Scholar. I've already got a Scholar in my team. And yeah, once again, willpower is not very great, so I wouldn't even put that on the fighter anyway. And then Alchemist, I wouldn't take that because Dex isn't my main stat, so it doesn't affect me anyway. And then Thief, once again, you get Dex and Crit. Dex isn't my main stat, so I'll be losing out on kind of efficiency there by taking it. So yeah, the best one to take is Cooking, Mining, and Blacksmithing for a fighter tank. If you want to be a damage dealer, take Tinkerer if someone else doesn't have it, but there's probably better classes that are more suited to having a higher crit chance than the fighter in general. Okay, so this is my build for the fighter. So I have Destabilizing Strike, really strong, being able to destabilize an enemy, taking off that guard, making them a squishy target is amazing. On top of that, once it's upgraded, it's guaranteed critical hits on anything without guards. So that means I can drop all the kind of squishy targets that are really squishy. Say, for example, all the rogues and bandits and also the archers. It's just really crazy on them. Drop them down, almost two-shot them as well as a tank, which is crazy. Then I have Valorous Duel. Every time this unit engages in combat, you gain 1 Valor point. It speaks for itself. I engage a lot of people in combat, especially with Inspiration from the next talent at level 5. It means I get around the combat really quick. I can engage everyone. I get loads of Valor points. I generate almost 2 to 3 Valor points a turn, depending on what I'm doing, which is pretty damn strong for a tank. Once again, literally, I'm just pumping out those Valor points. Moving on to counter attack. So counter attack's really good for this, because a lot of the time I will just sit him on a big beefy target that I don't want to kill just yet, because it's going to cost me way too many resources to take it down. It's going to take like a whole 2 turns of all my characters, and it just wouldn't be worth it because the enemy team will be killing me in the meantime. So normally I go for higher priority targets. So with this, when I'm engaged with a target and I can't kill it fast enough, this allows me just to kind of do a bit more chip damage while I'm applying poisons and kind of just tanking them down. Then we have hardcore training, which is kind of like the best ability in this, or best skill in this whole build. This is craziest thing, you know, immune to bleeding, poison or burning. In the later map, there's so much poison, so this is really, really needed. On top of that, every time I get a burning effect from my weapon that I create myself, I get rage. Every time they apply a debuff, I get rage. So by the end of combat, I can have at least like 10 to 12 stacks of rage, which is a big, massive damage bonus. So it means I'll be even one-shotting things even quicker than normal. Right, so that about wraps up my best build guide for the swordsman. If you have any suggestions on how to make this class even more powerful, I look forward to hearing it. I'm also covering the last 3 classes, so stay tuned for that. Like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.